You're here because you want to get smart, fast, right? Dive deep without getting totally locked in the weeds. We get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Today, we're doing exactly that with a source that might, well, raise an eyebrow. Ninja Mind Control by Ashida Kim.
Indeed. And, you know, maybe forget the Hollywood stuff for a sec. This book, first out in '84 and still around, it really digs into ninja meditation and a lot more.
This Dijo Press edition we're looking at, that's the one Kim authorized himself after getting the rights back in '96, yeah.
That's the one. It's presented as the definitive version.
And it's a wild mix of topics, isn't it? You've got meditation, these breathing exercises, qigong, these like mysterious Kuji-in hand gestures, the five elements philosophy, building up internal strength, naikung,
Right.
exploring mental powers. There's a self-defense form, milukata, and even, get this, a section on spirit helpers. Quite the collection.
It is. What's fascinating, I think, is the book's ambition. It tries to weave all these things that seem pretty different on the surface into one system for, well, personal mastery.
Okay, so listeners might be thinking, right, are we going to learn how to vanish or, hypnotize people?
Hey, yeah, probably.
And while the book does touch on some of those legendary ideas, our real mission here, our deep dive, is to pull out the core concepts. Things about self-control, mental toughness, and how inner and outer strength play together, at least according to this unique text.
Exactly.
We're looking for principles, maybe for personal growth, not necessarily a step-by-step guide to becoming a movie ninja.
Precisely. The book kicks off with this core idea, the warrior mystic. It's all about balancing that inner and outer power.
Right.
And there's this key quote that kind of sets the stage. To be a ninja, one must be strong, one must know, one must dare, and one must keep silent. These really become the pillars for the training it outlines.
One must be strong.
Yeah.
Okay, so this isn't just pumping iron, right?
No, not at all.
The book talks about physical strength, yeah, for martial arts, but also this deep inner strength, mental, even spiritual. The ninja described here, they seem to have this heightened awareness, almost like a sixth sense, reading body language, maybe even helping with minor healing.
It's presented that way, yes.
And apparently at higher levels, this inner strength can even draw loyal followers. So for the listener, maybe it's less about being a fighter and more about seeing that real strength comes from both, physical well-being and mental resilience.
And what's interesting is how the book links them. It suggests the physical discipline helps build the mental discipline. And that true strength isn't about aggression. It's rooted in being calm and centered.
Right.
Lots of martial arts traditions echo that, mental toughness being just as vital as the physical skill.
Then we hit one must know. And this shifts things, focusing on intelligence, but broader than just IQ scores.
Yeah, more holistic.
It's about the capacity to learn, to understand things deeply. And the book makes this really interesting point that we often limit ourselves by just accepting what others say about how smart we are.
Right, letting others define us.
Yeah. And it even suggests that really deep self-knowledge can actually make those legendary, maybe paranormal combat skills kind of unnecessary. So the takeaway is maybe about recognizing your own potential, always trying to learn to understand the world and yourself better.
And that knowing also bleeds into what the book calls ninja mysticism, which has like a defensive side deflecting negativity, but also more complex bits, mantras, rituals.
Okay.
And thinking about the historical ninja role as spies, the book really stresses memory and these things called toramaki, sacred scrolls, basically.
So like knowledge repositories.
Exactly. Vital information kept safe. Think of them as, I don't know, the early internet for ninja secrets.
Huh. Okay. And the ultimate goal of all this knowing is to become a sage, the superior man living in harmony with the universe's rules.
That's the pinnacle presented, yeah. And the book lays out 4 key laws: balance, equal, and opposite forces. Extremes push forces to the limit, they become the same. Karma, everything's connected. What goes around comes around, basically threefold. And change, everything's always shifting.
Fast in flux.
Right. The sage is shown as deeply connected, preferring quiet, not easily rattled by everyday chaos. And these laws, they echo ideas in lots of philosophies. They remind us of some fundamental truths about reality.
It's fascinating how simple they sound, yet how deep they go.
Yeah.
Balance is like yin and yang.
Exactly.
Karma's huge in Eastern thought, and change. Well, that's just science, isn't it?
Pretty much. The sage here just embodies understanding these big principles.
Okay, moving on. One must dare. Now, this isn't just reckless bravery, is it?
No, it's framed more strategically. It's about overcoming enemies without violence, pulling off a bloodless coup.
Okay.
Dexterity and invisibility, which seems to mean both literal hiding and also a kind of mental presence or lack thereof are key.
So being unnoticed.
Right. And spying, gathering intel, that's part of it too. It even mentions these super dedicated zealots. But the core idea seems to be skillful evasion, avoiding the fight if possible, and prioritizing unarmed combat when necessary.
So for us, maybe daring translates to tackling challenges smartly, creatively, looking for solutions that avoid conflict, but still get you where you need to go.
Yeah, that emphasis on nonviolent resolution is an interesting spin on the warrior archetype, isn't it?
Definitely.
It suggests a mastery where intelligence and strategy trump brute force. The zealots mention, maybe a strong word, but it points to the power of intense focus and dedication.
And finally, one must keep silent. This isn't just about not blabbing secrets, is it?
No, it's deeper. It comes from a place of understanding so profound that constant commentary just isn't needed anymore.
Okay.
Through studying esoteric stuff, controlling your energy, you develop this, subconscious knowing.
Intuition.
And this level brings certain abilities.
According to the book, yes. Resisting manipulation, the ability to feign death like some yogis are said to do, and strong empathy. It even mentions the vibrating palm technique.
And yin and yang as these balancing forces within everyone. So this silence is really about inner peace, a quiet confidence that doesn't need to shout.
A knowing that speaks for itself.
Exactly. A profound understanding leads to that inner quiet and the connection to empathy, balance. It all reinforces that internal harmony is the source of real power, according to this text.
So that's the warrior mystic framework.
Right.
But the book digs into the nitty-gritty, starting with something called the I Ching.
Right. What's really interesting here is that the book turns to this ancient Chinese medical text, possibly the oldest one we know of, to explain the why behind some of these ninja mind control exercises.
It actually quotes conversations.
Yeah, snippets between the legendary Yellow Emperor and his physician, trying to ground the practices in ancient wisdom.
And the core idea from the I Ching, as the book presents it, is that longevity, health. It all comes from understanding the Tao, this fundamental universal principle, and living in harmony with yin and yang.
Right. It contrasts this with modern life, which it argues shortens our lives through, excess and a lack of inner balance.
Yin and yang are defined as
these basic complementary forces, the source of all change, all mystery in nature. Yin is often seen as receptive, feminine, dark, cool. Yang as active, masculine, light, warm, two sides of one coin, constantly interacting.
Okay.
And the I Ching apparently uses this framework to understand the body, too. Exterior versus interior, back versus abdomen, solid organs versus hollow ones. They're all classified using yin and yang.
It's a system of correspondences.
Exactly, and it stresses their dynamic interplay. Movement is yang, nourishment is yin, but they depend on each other. It's always about balance.
And from yin and yang, we get to qi.
Yes. The book talks about obtaining qi in the context of acupuncture. The I Ching describes meridians as algae pathways, like rivers flowing through the body to these 4 C's: nourishment, blood, energy, and marrow.
And imbalances cause problems.
That's the idea presented. Those imbalances are seen as the root of illness.
So how does this connect back to the ninja specifically?
Well, the book suggests that ninja could tap into this vital energy, this qi, supposedly stored in their organs. It uses the example of Tameshiwara, breaking bricks or boards. The idea is that qi forms a kind of protective glove around the hand.
Now, qi is tricky for Western understanding, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's a traditional concept, no direct scientific equivalent, but the practices associated with it focusing on breath, intention, those have shown real benefits for stress, well-being.
Right.
The book is clear, though. You can't really force or direct qi in a crude way. It's about achieving harmony through practice, which then leads to higher awareness or consciousness.
Okay, so if it's about harmony, how do you start building that? The book moves into Qigong breathing exercises, right? Qigong.
Exactly. Qigong or Qigong is presented as the art of breath control. The basic idea is deep breathing brings in oxygen. Then, using mental focus, you visualize directing this oxygen-rich blood to specific spots for healing or just general well-being. The book even hints it could affect hormones and psychic states.
So it's intentional breathing plus visualization.
Pretty much. It stresses that these exercises, and the Kuji-kiri we'll get to, are about consciously guiding energy flow. It mentions roots in ancient yoga and tantra.
But there's a warning, too.
Oh, yeah, a big one. Consult a doctor first, don't push yourself. A true ninja, it says, avoid strain. These are supposedly powerful techniques.
Got it. So the first step is collecting the chi.
Right. You take a deep breath, filling your lower abdomen, the hara, hold it gently, and visualize energy circulating.
How long do you hold?
It warns against overdoing it, mentions potential for rupturing vessels, suggests exhaling about half the amount you inhaled, and initially maybe count heartbeats to get a feel for your limits.
Okay. And then comes discomfort.
Often, yeah. The book talks about the initial fidgetiness, the itches, the mind wandering when you try to be still, but it says you progress towards tranquility.
Where distractions just fade.
Yeah, they become background noise you just observe without reacting. And at this point, you might experience odd things ringing, whistles, flashes of light, geometric patterns.
Seriously.
That's what the book describes. It attributes symbolic meanings to them.
Interesting.
But the key takeaway here is the focus on breath as this link. Between conscious and subconscious, it's something physical everyone can control.
And breathing affects mood, right?
Definitely. The book connects breath rate to emotional states. It suggests that by consciously practicing slow, relaxed breathing, you can actually cultivate a calmer personality over time. Program yourself for calm.
It acknowledges that chi is mysterious for Westerners.
It does. It relates the ancient idea of a vital life force in air to our later scientific understanding of oxygen and other gases. Different frameworks, maybe pointing at similar phenomena regarding breath's importance.
Ultimately, focusing on breath helps connect mind and body.
That's the goal presented, establishing rapport between autonomic and conscious systems, leading to harmony, self-understanding, inner peace.
Okay, so building on breath control, we get Kuji-kiri, which are what exactly?
Japanese name for ninja finger knitting exercises, also known as mudras in Hindu and Tibetan traditions.
Finger knitting.
Yeah, sounds a bit quaint, but there's specific hand positions, interlocked fingers, and there's this fascinating idea that advanced practitioners might form them automatically during, say, deep thought or stress.
On the purpose.
The core idea is programming the mind. By associating specific meanings, symbols, intentions with these hand patterns, the ninja could supposedly train themselves to withstand torture, accomplish amazing feats, contributing to the legends, you know?
So like mental triggers linked to handshakes.
Exactly. But it wasn't just internal. The book claims these gestures also subtly, unconsciously influenced observers.
Oh, how?
Because of a supposed subconscious understanding of how hand positions relate to the body's energy or state, it makes Kuji-kiri an art of subtle mind influence. Nonverbal communication, but deeper.
Like body language taken to another level.
Kind of. The book mentions a scene in The Last Ninja movie as an example. It stresses how subtle it is the target isn't aware. Compares it to modern advertising, using subtle cues.
And because it's potentially manipulative.
It's supposedly only taught to those deemed trustworthy, those without selfish motives who've reached a certain level of mastery. That's the claim.
Okay. And there are 9 levels.
Yes, the 9 levels of power, corresponding to 9 finger positions. The book links this to the body having 3 main energy centers, each with 3 aspects or vibrations, making 9 total. Meditation aims to harmonize these.
Right.
Understanding these 9 levels embodied in Kuji-kiri is presented as crucial in ninjutsu. They're said to come from Tibetan Lama chants for enlightenment.
Can you list them briefly?
Sure. Rin, strength.
Yeah.
Kyo, direction of energy. To, harmony. Sha, healing. Kai, premonition. Jin, knowing thoughts. Retsu, mastery of time-space. Zai, control of elements. And finally, Zen, enlightenment.
Wow. Quite a progression.
Yeah, it's basically a ladder of personal and spiritual development mapped onto these hand signs.
So the gestures themselves are like memory aids.
Exactly. Mnemonic devices for the mental and physical training associated with each level. They symbolize chi moving through the body. Beginners focus on one level at a time before combining them.
Okay, can you describe maybe the first few positions?
Sure. Rin, for strength. Middle fingers extended, tips touching, other fingers interlocked outside. You focus on your pulse during the exhale. Connects to inner strength, daily spirituality.
Okay.
Kyo, direction of energy. Index fingers extended, middle fingers curl around them, others interlocked. Represents guiding energy flow, linked to sensory withdrawal, maybe psychokinetic abilities, compared to the caduceus symbol.
Interesting.
To, harmony. A specific linkage, hard to describe without seeing it, represents harmony with the universe, appreciating life. Animals supposedly sense this piece.
And sha?
Sha, healing, index fingers extended, others interlocked, symbolizes power to heal self and others by directing their own energy. Power source is said to be the solar plexus.
Okay, fascinating stuff. After the hand techniques, where does the book go?
It moves on to the 5 elements exercises.
Right, connecting back to that warrior mystic idea.
Exactly. To become that, you need to fill your body with qi, collected in the hara, the tantin, which it calls the golden stove for blending energies.
The golden stove, I like that.
Yeah. It reiterates strength for the warrior, intelligence for the mystic. Combine them. That's the ninja ideal presented here.
And it mentions ninja rarely wore armor.
Right. Suggesting reliance on inner preparedness, not external protection. Focuses on private practice balance, martial arts, alongside these mental exercises, and developing memory so you don't need notes eventually.
Okay, so the 5 elements. How do they tie into exercises?
The book connects each finger to an element: earth, water, fire, air, wood, void, and each element to an organ.
So finger positions channel energy based on elements.
That's the concept. Kuji-in positions are framed as ways to channel healing, oxygen-rich energy according to these elemental principles. To maintain health, learn universal secrets.
Our fingers and organs linked.
Through networks of nerves, vessels, meridians, even psychic channels, according to the text. Each organ embodies an element. It's an ancient system of correspondence, 5 elements, 5 fingers. Seems logical within that framework.
But it stresses symbolism over literal connection.
Very much so. The meaning of the gestures, the mental focus on directing energy that's supposedly more important than the physical links, though the gestures reinforce the practice, like Pavlov's dogs responding to the bell.
Got it. And these 5 element exercises are for balancing energies.
Yeah, toning up or sedating specific energies. 2 involve movement, 2 are static, 1's a mix.
And it quotes the I Ching again.
Yep, saying the 5 elements cover all natural phenomena and apply equally to humans. It describes the cycles. Creation, wood feeds fire, fire makes earth, etc. And destruction, wood breaks earth, earth dams water.
The yin and yang of nature.
Right, the law of change. It also mentions briefly how excess energy in one organ can be dissipated to the next in the cycle.
Okay, can you give examples of the first few exercises?
Sure. Earth, linked to the spleen. Interlock fingers, thumb tips touch. Exhale fully, tense the hara. Focus on taste and touch. Side note, worry supposedly injures the spleen.
Interesting. Water.
Water, for kidneys, bladder, more involved. Deep inhale, lifting interlaced hands to throat. In comes the good air. Exhale, pushing up. Out goes the bad air. Hold. Lower hands to head. Enter healing white light. Exhale down to lap. Repeat 9 times. Said to boost kidneys, willpower, immune system. But again, warning not to overdo it.
Okay, and fire.
Fire for the heart. Simpler. Fingertips almost touching. Raise arms in a circle. Inhale energy entering right fingers, passes through heart, exits left on exhale. Repeat 3 times. Aorta is the physical link mentioned.
Right, moving from elements to Nei Kung, internal strength. What's this about?
This section explains that prolonged practice of these internal exercises leads to greater physical control. It quiets the Jinin, the lower self concerned with survival, basic drives liberating higher levels of being.
Jinin. Isn't that also a term for field agents?
It is, yeah. So maybe implying this is foundational work.
And the core idea is mind over matter.
Pretty much. Body control leads to mind control, making the impossible seem, well, commonplace, though showing off is discouraged as ego-driven.
How does it supposedly work?
Concentrating on breathing develops awareness of internal sounds, eventually letting you withdraw consciousness meditatively. In this state, the book claims your body has an energized electromagnetic aura.
An aura?
Yeah, protecting you, allowing resistance to extremes, heat, cold, lack of air, even being buried alive, walking on fire, citing fakir examples. How long depends on concentration.
Wow. Okay. What else?
Superior balance. Adjusting weight for tight ropes, wall climbing, silent movement, safe falling like judo zucchini. It even mentions Houdini and Hindu examples for mentally expanding or shrinking the body.
Seriously.
That's what's in the book. The principle is any body part can become a weapon or incredibly resilient. Iron body styles. Requires intense focus, time, and balance.
Does it acknowledge this takes energy?
Yes. It mentions the value placed on enduring hardship in China, but says meditation can only temporarily calm desires like hunger. You still need to replenish. But this power supposedly allows suspending life signs until you consciously wake up.
Okay. And Tamishiwara, breaking stuff.
Right. It's described as channeling qi from your core, your generative organs, to the striking surface, like the edge of your hand. Gives the example of a death blow to the neck.
Does it take much force?
It notes the pressure needed might be small, but stone is harder than bone, so intense focus time is essential. It even briefly describes setting a vertebra with one hand, striking with the other, and repeats the warning. Anger injures the spleen, so don't do this enraged.
Fascinating, if extreme. Now we get into the really mind-bending stuff. Mental powers.
Yeah, this is where it explores things like mind reading, hypnosis, suggestion, impressment, controlling situations.
Mind reading. Telepathy.
The book suggests everyone has intuition, and mind reading is about establishing mental rapport. It talks about identifying personality types, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and observing eye movements as windows to the soul.
Eye movements.
Yeah, looking up for visual thinkers, side to side for listeners, down for feelers, right glance for reasoning, left for memory. Now, modern psychology has more nuanced views on these cues, but that's the book's take.
So based on that, you adjust your language.
Exactly. Use see words with visual types, hear words with auditory, feel words with kinesthetic, tailor your communication, which, is a basic principle of good communication anyway.
Right. What else for building rapport?
Synchronizing, matching their breathing rate, body language, uses examples like soldiers marching, church members praying together, but cautions against obvious mimicry needs to feel genuine.
Okay. Then you can lead.
Yeah, described as subtle influence for sharing burdens, giving advice, not forceful control. You test rapport by intentionally changing your own posture or breathing and seeing if they follow. Empathy is key.
And body language can give clues.
Definitely. Hand covering hand, meaning hidden knowledge, crossed limbs defensiveness. It even suggests subtly using mudras, those hand signs again, to set a mood, like contagious yawning.
Okay. What about actual hypnosis?
Belief is key, according to the book. Stage hypnosis is framed as a subconscious agreement, a performance. Confident people volunteer, don't force the unwilling. Suggestion works best when someone's receptive.
And suggestion itself.
Planting a seed in the mind. Can grow with imagination, motivation. Gives examples like making a hypochondriac feel sick by asking, or building confidence with positive feedback. But notes that for independent action, suggestion often needs long repetition.
What's impressment? How's that different?
It's presented as gaining cooperation from someone already sympathetic, uses the stage volunteer again, or military training, prison camps where authority or fear drives compliance. It seems more about immediate obligation than gradual suggestion.
Okay. And controlling options.
Making your desired choice seem like their free choice, like offering candy only in one hand, or asking leading questions like, have you stopped beating your wife? Manipulating the frame. Negotiation tactics, basically.
Right. Then there's hypnosis in combat. His ninjutsu.
Yeah, the way of the mind gate. Using trickery to make the enemy act against their interests. References Bruce Lee's motor setting, creating attack-defense patterns.
Feinting psychological ploys.
Exactly. Taunting, faking injury, target denial, just not being there to be hit. Quotes Sun Tzu, all warfare is based on deception.
And it describes feeling qi in battle.
It does. A warm core, strong spine, rooted feet, effortless balance, subtle tension, hands up defensively, qi focus forward like a sphere, detached awareness, calm mind reacting instantly, Musashi's no-mind state.
Wow.
But emphasizes this state needs proper movement, originating from the waist. Heightened awareness plus skillful action.
Okay, we've covered a ton, philosophy, breathing, mind stuff. But there's a practical physical part too. Milukaka, the lost track form.
Right. The book explains ninjutsu is more about principles than rigid exercises. Kata, these formal sequences, are ways to preserve the art's history.
Like a choreographed fight.
Sort of. A set sequence demonstrating techniques. Can be historical, for health, self-defense, or purely technical. Gives examples like Hawaiian fire dancers or Shotokan karate's Hien-1 kata.
And they were learned by rote memory.
Initially, yeah, to transmit knowledge across generations. But notes each student's interpretation evolves the art, even if core principles stay. Quote, the way that can be told is not the eternal way. Limits of just words.
It mentions historical reasons for kata, like weapon bans.
Yes, sword hunts, forcing secret training, despising combat moves as dances, connects it to modern musical forms competitions.
A key part is visualizing an opponent.
Crucial, according to the book, introduces this idea of everyone having a secret enemy you dance with in practice.
A secret enemy.
Yeah. It acknowledges people might start martial arts for revenge, but ideally they overcome that. The sage taught to divert anger into energy, so kata becomes a fight against this imaginary enemy.
How do you invoke this enemy?
There's a ritual described. Sit in seiza. Repeat a trigger word mentally. Enemy, maybe. Tense up, replay negative stuff. Build anger. Stand up. Vividly imagine the enemy. Perform the kata with full force, visualizing impacts. End with a bow.
What's the psychological point?
Using up anger safely in practice. Repetition makes technique better, anger less intense. Eventually, just the word triggers focus, connects it to imaginary friends, the need to face inner demons symbolically.
And eventually you realize
that enemies are self-created projections. The imaginary enemy becomes an ally for self-understanding. Anger at others is often the ego judging itself. The best fighter isn't angry. That's the path outlined.
Okay. And Milukata embodies magic principles, like stage magic.
Exactly. Sleight of hand illusion. Mi means hidden, lu means track. The kata is divided into elemental sections teaching 5 principles.
What are they?
Angle method. Invisibility by being where they can't see you. Blinding method. Momentary distraction like sand in the eyes. Misdirection method. Move both hands to hide one, fainting. Scarf method. Using cloth for illusions or concealment. And mind method. Playing on emotions using shimenjutsu.
So manipulating perception.
Pretty much. But the book stresses, again, the real focus is self-control. That's what makes these things seem like secret powers. Claims anyone can do it with practice. Empowers the individual knowledge is key.
Okay, let's quickly touch on some specific Milukata techniques mentioned. The bow.
Traditional bow is respect, assessment. The closed right fist, yang, covered by left palm, yin, is the sign of eternity's secret knowledge. Ending with it shows understanding.
Raising the curtain. Dragon spread wings.
Kasumi stance. Defensive step back, arms folded, maybe using a scarf for illusion. Dragon spread wings. Arms spread slowly, holding scarf. Psychological ploy, look bigger. Or practical, throw scarf.
Half step. Kicks.
Half step uses misdirection, watching hands, to close distance for a front snap kick. Knee, groin, solar plexus. Double front snap kick follows up fast to the head using feinting.
Sword hand. Tearing down the door.
Follow up sword hand. Step in after kick, chop to neck collarbone, tearing down the door, facing a second attacker, step forward aggressively into their attack.
Entangling arms. Pushing the door.
Entangling arms. Wide sweep to deflect, maybe use scarf. Pushing the door. Rock forward, push with both hands from hips, potentially trapping an arm. Juji-uke.
Dragon tail kick.
Dragon tail kick.
Shittiglebick. Spinning back leg sweep. Angle method. Sand in the eyes. Scoop, sand low, underhand, toss to face, blinding method. Sand in the eyes throw is more forceful upward throw. Pragmatic ninjutsu versus samurai honor mentions Metsubishiko. Blinding powders.
Me loose step. Spin back pivot.
Mainly step pivot. Angle method again. Step straight past them to get behind. Spin back pivot. Pivot into horse stance behind them for a strike. Maybe uses human shield.
As scraping sidekick. Back fist. Scraping sidekick. Low kick. Scrape down shin. Stomp in step. Misdirection. Back fist. Quick strike to base of skull while foot is pinned.
Double block. Coin toss.
Double block. Wide stance. Quick arm block covering center line. Coin toss. Step back. Reach to hip. Historically for coins powder. Show open hand. Toss upward to face. Blinding psychological.
Spin back fist. Beat down block. Power punch.
Spin back fist. Devastating pivot strike, back fistal bow, beat down block, forceful downward arm strike to break attack arm, escape choke, power punch, hooking strike using momentum.
Thumb gouge, knee strike.
Double the thumb gouge, step in, thumbs to eyes, grab head, knee strike, follow up to head or groin.
Opening the curtain, monkey steals the peach.
Opening the curtain, circular hands separate to open center line, defensive retreat, monkey steals the peach, classical groin slap, drop low, distract with arms, strike upward, can be lethal if done with chai power or ripping action, book claims.
Wow. And to finish.
Step back, fold arms, repeat entire kata mirrored on the other side for ambidexterity. And with sign of eternity, bow signifies deeper understanding.
Okay, that was intense. Finally, the book wraps up with hidden masters, spirit helpers.
Right. It starts by acknowledging readers might be looking for occult power, but quotes, "The way is known to all, but not all know it," suggests personal instruction is usually needed.
But offers a way.
Proposes contacting these secret teachers by following their example. True knowledge endures. Universal laws guide everyone to universal mind cosmic consciousness. Many paths, same destination, Vishnu all-knowing. Anything is possible at that level.
It talks about self-doubt.
Yeah, the test of self-doubt when seeking oneness with nature, seeing it as separate, can lead to loneliness, seeking counsel, maybe bad counsel, culminates in the dark night of the soul, finding inner strength. I have no friend, I make my mind my friend. Zen samurai quote.
And get you to take this further.
With Shi Menjitsu, Chinese psychology, posits 3 personality facets, Heaven Shin, Earth Chi Manching, paralleled to Burne's parent adult child. Hidden masters are the high self, internalized authority, inner guide.
What do these hidden masters do?
Act as parent, survival, make responses automatic, cause-effect, serve as counsel, guide, friend, teacher of secret knowledge. Everyone supposedly has one.
How do the exercises help connect?
They calm the lower self, chakras desires, raise energy consciousness, leads to sensitivity to nature, acting by universal laws.
How do you initiate contact?
Just begin. May take effort. Others have done it. Many cultures have ceremonies. Form varies, often unconscious, but powerful with imagination. Memory, composite figure, conscience. Awareness of guidance is key. Consulting them often increases influence.
Common characteristics?
Firm, honest, calm, insightful, provide full answers, calming effect, sense of irony, humor, seeing problems are often self-made, leads to humility.
Nenson's spiritualists.
Briefly, 1920s, 30s movement, spirit guides. Notes to similar voices, mediums often acknowledge them as imaginary friends.
Meditation techniques.
Hundreds exist, often involve altered breathing, hyperventilation. Cautions about heartbeat awareness causing anxiety, calmed by holding breath. Warns against charlatans claiming control over normal physiological effects.
A rudimentary method.
Comfortable position. Slowly repeat your own name. Kipling quote cited. Build self-awareness. Prepare yourself before requesting an ally. Sentry Scout spy linked to universal mind.
Detail matters.
More detail makes the ally feel more real, effective. But caution. Don't let fantasy take over. Treat it like make-believe for stress reduction.
Who determines the form?
Subconscious ultimately decides, even if you prepare descriptions. Match. Self-insight. Mismatch, high self balancing the child facet, harmonizing yin-yang in the adult self.
A basic meditation exercise.
Lie down comfy, eyes closed, aware of sounds without distraction. Inhale, count 1 to 4, hold 2. Easy exhale, 1 to 4, hold 2, repeat 3 times. Count speed, syncs with, regulates heartbeat. No throat constriction. Exhale from era.
Deeper exercise.
Think of pleasant experience. 3 deep breaths, exhale counting 3, 2, 1 each time. Develops contemplation, focus on breathing, relaxation response. Feel relaxation, sounds don't distract, many drift to light sleep.
Spirit helper's name. Mantra.
All men have 3 names. Same for helper. Can wait for name, or choose one, repeat softly 3 times. Personal mantra, keep secret. Communication. Verbal, visual, kinesthetic, telepathic, mind dialogue.
Ends of the chant.
Yeah, includes a quoted Cheyenne Indian chant as an example of invoking spiritual connection.
So that's quite a journey we've taken through ninja mind control, from philosophy to, well, spirit helpers.
It really covers a lot of ground, doesn't it? We've looked at the ideals, the physical stuff, the mental techniques, inner guidance.
What's really striking, I think, is that blend. You know, martial arts discipline mixed with these more esoteric ideas and this heavy emphasis on the power of the mind. It's definitely a unique perspective on personal development.
Absolutely. And for you, the listener, well, whether you take the more mystical parts literally or see them as metaphors,
right.
The book presents some pretty compelling ideas. Self-discipline, mental resilience, that deep connection between mind and body. These are principles that, you know, they have relevance far beyond just ninjas.
Yeah, absolutely. Which leaves us with maybe a final thought to chew on. Could these hidden masters the book talks about simply be a way of tapping into your own deepest wisdom? Your intuition. What untapped potential for guidance might you find by, turning your attention inward and exploring the hidden landscapes of your own mind? Something to think about.